Hey, y'all, I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Cover 3 College Football Summer School. We've done our research on the teams, and now we're bringing on the top team experts from the 24/7 Sports Network to help us fill in the blanks. Please follow us on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. That's Cover 3 Podcast. And leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All right, class is in session. All right, guys, welcome back again to the Cover 3 Podcast Summer School Edition, where I take my notebook out and we try to go through and fill in the blanks. And no better person to do that with for Texas A&M than Brian Perroni of Gig 'em 24/7. Brian, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on, Bud.
I'm really excited to do this one. This is the first team that I actually have a national title bet on for this year, and I'm hoping to hear nothing. I mean, granted, I got great odds, so I feel like I had to take a little stab at it after having Georgia last year at 10-1. Let's briefly look at last year's team. Power ratings told me they were a top 10 level team. That's kind of play combined with a very difficult schedule. They did lose the QB, however, and they went 8-4. So like the eye test, it was a top 10 quality team, but maybe not always a top 10 pretty team to watch. Does that seem fair?
No, for sure. And I think the fact that they lost Haynes King was a really big deal. I mean, Zach Calzada was not really ready to and was sort of thrown in there. A&M, I think you've written an article about it. A&M just could not throw the ball downfield. I mean, that was a huge deal and really limited the offense. So in the losses that they had, that was really the difference, is that they just couldn't get anything going in the vertical game. So they're really hoping to change that this year with whatever quarterback wins the race and maybe a better offensive line as well.
I'm really interested in this offense this year. I track all these stats. My friend Bill Connolly tracks all these stats, and it is just weird to see a team that is just so damn good at basically all the categories, and then 4 years in a row they're averaging outside the top 100 in passing explosiveness rating. I'm like, they don't recruit slow dudes. You know what I mean? They have to find a way to hit some more explosive plays. Super efficient running the ball again. They had controlled passing game, which is sort of the nature of the offense, but I think do you think they can find kind of a happy medium, maybe a little middle ground here to where they're hitting a few more explosive plays down the field this year?
I think so. I think that, when he was at Florida State, I know you got a close look at it as well. Jimbo Fisher's playbook is a little tough on the receivers to really learn. So some of the more talented guys had some troubles with that. So you had maybe not the most athletic or talented guys that were on the field a ton, but that should change this year, especially with 5-star true freshman Evan Stewart. He had a great spring game recently, and there's some real high hopes for him. You have another 5-star coming in, and Chris Marshall, who is a big athletic kid who had plenty of basketball offers. And then Moose Muhammad is coming into his own, and Keith Brown at slot is coming into it, and then Anaya Smith is going to play all over the place. So you do have some downfield threats for really the first time under Fisher this year.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to hear that. Quarterback-wise, Haynes King, it's clear Jimbo liked him at least over Calzada last year until he got hurt in that Colorado game. They bring in Max Johnson. They also have the true freshman in the mix. Obviously, Jimbo hasn't announced a starter yet. In the era of the portal, we're recording this the day or day or two after the spring game. We're probably not going to get an announcement on that, at least not until May 1st when that portal deadline passes. But from what you've heard, is there somebody who you believe is a front runner or at least kind of taking the step?
So I honestly don't expect an announcement probably until the week of the first game. And I don't think that's really just Fisher playing games, trying to keep guys from transferring. I really think they don't know. The recent spring game, none of the three quarterbacks had good games, just to be completely honest. There were some drops, but just all three were under 50% throwing. Headed into the spring, I would have said Haynes King had the advantage. I now, if forced to bet on it, would probably say Max Johnson, but I also don't want to count out the freshman Connor Wigman. So the answer to your question is no, there's really not a front runner. All three guys got first team reps throughout the spring, but Johnson has that experience starting in the SEC, and that could be the ultimate deciding factor if they're just looking for a guy to limit mistakes.
I mean, you know the team better than I do. There's no real reason for me to be that worried about the offensive line, right? They lose a couple good players, but there's a lot of talent here.
There is I guess the one thing is, other than Ruben Fothery, who was a freshman All American, there aren't really many true offensive tackles on the team. So they've got to find a guy at that left tackle position. And then, obviously replace a likely first round pick in Kenyon Green. But no, I think the line should actually be better than last season because there's some experience coming back. And then, the freshmen from last year in Fothery and center Bryce Foster have experience under their belts now.
For sure. So let's go ahead and flip to the other side. Since I feel like you covered the receiver so well. Defensively, this unit carried the team last year. I mean, they were top 10 national, especially when you adjust for opponent quality. They played a lot of really good quarterbacks and balled out. I do have some concerns up front. Looks like you probably do a little bit as well, which is kind of weird. So they lost all 4 guys who had at least 400 snaps in 2021, it looks like, right?
No, for sure. They had 5 defensive linemen at the NFL Combine, so that's tough to replace.
But yet A&M signed not only the highest rated recruiting class in the history of recruiting rankings, but also the real driver of that rating was the numerous 5-star defensive linemen who they signed. I didn't really pay attention to which of those guys got into spring camp or not yet, which is why we do summer school on Cover 3. Who do you feel like is going to step up? What's the confidence level you have in? I mean, I assume there's going to be some kind of drop off here, I would guess, but is it going to be a big drop off? You think, or
to be honest, I don't know if there's going to be a drop off, and I don't think I'm saying that as a homer. McKinley Jackson had a great true freshman campaign 2 years ago, and they're really hoping he gets back to that freshman form. But when you lose a guy like DeMarvin Leal, who will be maybe a second-day draft pick, Shamar Turner, a 5-star from 2 years ago, he's sort of the same mold, but even quicker and more athletic. So that's a big deal. And then you had Tumishe Adelie, who missed last season with some issues and is here as a redshirt freshman, had a great spring game. He had a pair of sacks there. Anthony Lucas, a true freshman, is on campus already and went through spring ball, had a great spring ball. And then you have a whole bunch of 5-stars that'll be there in the fall. And, that's a position they think there are a few guys that can step in and play right away, sort of Shamar Stewart from down in Miami, Walter Nolan, who was the number 2 player in the country. So there's going to be a ton of depth there, and I think a lot of talent. And Shamar Turner, the sophomore, I think he's a guy that a ton of people would be talking about by the end of the season.
Now, A&M does have a coordinator change on this side of the ball. They went and they stole one from Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I thought, played probably above its talent level at times last year, and it's never easy running a defense opposite of Lane Kiffin. But they were very bend but don't break. But A&M, it seems like their personnel, given all the great experience and talent they have in the secondary, could afford to be a little more aggressive than certainly what Ole Miss ran. As Jimbo or the new DC talked about what they want to do at all there?
So I think DJ Durkin is going to do a lot of the same things as Mike Elko did. It's still going to be a lot of 4-2-5 because A&M has the personnel for that. You are maybe going to see a little bit more of an edge rusher. Elko didn't really try and get after the quarterback as far as sacks that often, but A&M has some talented guys on campus that are good at that. So I think you'll see more of that. But really, it's going to be pretty similar, and all the guys there with more experience under their belt, they shouldn't really have a drop off at all.
Linebacker should be just fine, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. Edrin Cooper is incredibly athletic, and I think he'll make a lot of plays. And then Andre White Jr. is the other projected starter. Both have a ton of experience under their belt. Depth is an issue there, but as long as they stay healthy, it'll be a good unit.
All right, I know Jimbo loves hunting. If they go hunting in the portal, what's the one position that they're still looking to bring somebody in at?
Well, so here's the deal. A&M signed 30 players already, and they brought Max Johnson in. So there's only one spot left.
Oh, right.
If they were to get a guy, I mean, I think it would be an offensive tackle if they can find one, but everybody wants that. So
yes, everybody I have on this show
Yeah.
was an offensive tackle.
If not that, maybe a fast receiver. There are all these guys going in lately, but in the SEC, kids can't transfer within the SEC if they enter the portal, I think, after February 1st. So they're going to have to look for maybe somebody that interested in another conference if they need a guy. But really, it'd be offensive tackle if they for sure brought one in.
Brian, I look at this team and I just think, okay, the schedule's difficult, but at the same time, you're kind of betting on numbers, right? If you have King and Johnson and really highly rated freshman QB, kind of the law of large numbers says somebody should work out, and the logic kind of applies to defensive line as well. I don't know exactly which 5-star D lineman of the freshman group will step up, but the odds are pretty damn good that one of those guys should. So I don't know about you. I feel like I'm kind of bullish on this Aggies team this year.
Now, I think there's a reason most outlets have them in the way too early top 5, some even higher than that. So, I mean, the non-conference schedule, they have Miami, but Miami's coming to College Station. And then the SEC West is always tough, but A&M has proven they can hang with and beat all those teams. So, it'll be interesting for sure. If they win the games they're supposed to win, they should be favored in every game but Alabama. So I think you're right to be bullish.
I'm looking for explosive plays out of A&M's offense this year, and I'm looking for more awesome coverage from Brian Perroni and the whole crew at Gig'em 24/7. Brian, I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
All right, that's the bell. Cover 3 College Football Summer School is over for today, but don't worry. We'll be back soon with even more episodes filling you in on the top teams in college football. Please give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast, and we'll see you all soon.